皆様ご視聴いただきありがとうございます。ただいまより
Thank you for watching. We would like to start SPF China Observer Public Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. Thank you very much for joining in the SPF Public Forum China Observer. SPF China Observer. This time the theme is the meaning of the superiority of China claimed new party system. We have Professor Eto as a speaker, and as a discussant, we have Professor Takahara of Tokyo University to have the discussion. The General Secretary Xi Jinping is talking about Chinese characteristic. Era of Xi Jinping, or the Chinese characteristic socialism in new era. What is meant by those words? From Chinese side, there is no explicit explanation, but we are interested in these matters. Now, Chinese characteristic socialism, how is it impacting the international community? Of course, we are interested in that topic as well. The Chairman Xi Jinping administration was established, and since then in Chinese politics, what kind of characteristics do we see? Under that awareness, we have asked Professor Eto to talk about what is meant by the Chinese characteristic socialism. When you look into the social governance of Xi Jinping, people say the digital Leninism or happy surveillance society. But today, in this context, the new party system claimed by Xi Jinping, what is the implication of that? What is the meaning of that? And what is the superiority of new party system? That's what China is saying. What kind of impact would it have? So first of all, I will ask Professor Eto to start her presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. I am Naoko Eto of Gakushuin University. I have already published my article, and what is the positioning of a new party system within the context of Chinese-style democracy. And in the formation of that, those people who are out of the party, so-called intelligentsia, are incorporated into this discussion. So that is what I wrote in my paper. So there was a white paper on the new party system, and I would like to start my discussion focusing on the white paper. Please watch this. Please look at this. This is the title of the white paper. It was issued in June officially by China. So if you compare English version and Chinese version, I have compared it on the screen. So I have taken them from the official homepage. I have marked some parts. Maybe it's too small for you to see. So the marked on the Chinese text is what they say new. New is marked, but new is not reflected at all in the English version. It's a very interesting phenomenon in the presentation of the white paper. For example, the title, the China's political new party system in Chinese version, but it says China's political party system, cooperation and consultation. There is no reference to new, the word new. Or in the English version, I have highlighted the English version, English translation. In the Chinese version, it says the political party system in China. And it's a great creation in China. But just one word, unique political creation. That is the simple one word, and great is not mentioned in English version. Or number 4. I would like to talk about number 4 in this context. In number 4 section, the outstanding or a very significant advantage of a new political party system. But in English version, it is only a simple word, strength. So capitalizing on those characteristics, what is the core of the message of Xi Jinping's administration? I would like to present my observation about that. First of all, I would like to confirm certain points. This is under the Xi Jinping, the Chinese-style democracy is discussed and how the new political party system is positioned. So I have created a diagram. Chinese democracy, for example, from the 13th and 14th of October, there was a meeting of the United Front Work Department Conference, and they are saying that it is the new party system is under the Chinese democracy. So, new political party system is positioned in that context. Other than that, the People's Deputies Congress, or in other places where the people's opinions would be absorbed, and including all that, Chinese-style democracy is what they say that it is the characteristic. So in the United Front Work Conference, Mr. Xi said that the key to discern whether a country is democratic or not democratic, whether people have the power to decide or whether the people have the power to vote. But broadly, we should look into the people whether they have the right to participate in the political consultation. So the Western side of Western part of democracy is not negated. He is not negating, but Chinese democracy is a people's participation, participatory democracy. That is what is emphasized by China, and that is multi-party cooperation and political consultative system. That is the system that is the characteristic. So it is almost synonymous with the new political party system. Multi-party cooperation and political consultation. Where do they do it? There is a big conference, a political system called the Political Consultative Conference, and the actors in that political consultation. Who are the actors? Who are the participants? First is Communist Party, and then 8 political parties, democratic groups. And then non-party people who are not associated with any of the aforementioned 2 groups. So no-party people, mainly intelligentsia, the intellectuals. So they have the professional knowledge, and they are incorporated into the system, and they are going to be catalyzing the knowledge that those intellectuals have. So this is the basic framework of the new political party system. In my paper, I have argued that this is nothing new at all. So for many years, the Communist Party has done exactly that. And this time they are deliberately calling it new. I think there is a deliberate political will, intention behind that. And if they call it new, then what is old? That's what I discussed in my paper. In the Chinese literatures, I will explain more in detail. What is mentioned is that the political party system of the West is old, and Chinese system is new, and the Western system has certain shortcomings, and Chinese system is overcoming those Western shortcomings. In other words, the Chinese-style democracy is superior to the Western democracy. That is the discussion they are developing. Now, the discussion on a new political party system, when did it start? The system itself, the methodology itself, has been existing before the creation of the state, but that they are now saying new. It is only very recent that they began to use the word new. Around 2016, they began to talk about the this is a movement of strengthening the international discourse. The topmost line in 2016, the strengthening of the theoretical discourse of a political party in our country. well, in Japanese, we translate this wagoken as the discourse. What China says is accepted, and we have to create a situation where the discourse is influential. So if we want to have the reflection of discourse, then we have to look into the political parties, which is superior. And that has to be broadly accepted by the broader community. So there was a research done around 2016. Then in 2018, Chairman Xi Jinping came up with 3 news. How the political party system is so new. Once again, he redefined. The first one is the political theory of Marxism, and the Chinese reality was connected with that, and it will be representing the minority of people and the interest group. So that is the old type of political system. So the Chinese system is overcoming that and avoiding that. The second one is that there is a common objective established. One party would lack supervision, so we are avoiding effectively the damage or shortcomings of that. Usually it is represented by the U.S. presidential election. And the third new would be the institutionalization, standardization, and there are new norms. So this is new, and they would be representing. So the shortcoming of a divisive society is avoided. So social division is the shortcoming. Election-based democracy is of the past. So Chinese system is new. So they criticized they criticized the old system, and it is prevalent. In this white paper, number 4, I said that I will talk about it in detail. So number 4 is the 3 shortcomings exactly are mentioned there. On the other hand, in the English version, in the beginning I said that new is almost non-existent in the English version. There are 2 examples. I put the political system is a great creation in Chinese text. It is the new model. And this is the first part of the white paper. And in the first sentence of the last paragraph, most important paragraph, one sentence, and this sentence is included. It's supposed to be most important. And the translation is, this is a unique political model. So simple. The most important message is translated in this way. The new is not at all mentioned. Well, in some parts it is mentioned. Towards the end, there is one mentioned. The new model is mentioned in the English version. But new political system, it's not the translation of that. But in the context of a sentence, new, the word. So in the English version, it is not the direct translation. There is a long sentence which is abridged, and then a new model grown out of the soil of China. That is what is mentioned. So in the first half, it is a new model grown out of the soil of China, and new is added to the model. So that is the place new is mentioned. So it is a very restrained assertion about the new political party system. It's very strange. In my opinion, as I mentioned, the discourse power should be strengthened. That's the Chinese opinion. In the internal community, the discourse power has to be strengthened. That is what they are mindful. But in the international community, newness is not so much claimed or asserted. White paper itself, in section 4, it talks about the old style of a political party system. Only one place mention. What is meant by that? They don't discuss at all. It is the criticism of the West. They are not exactly explicitly saying so. But as a separate entity, separate thing from a white paper, what is meant by a new political party, there are many explanations given in a separate way. So this discussion is divided. White paper doesn't necessarily look like a criticism of the West, but in translating it into English, again, the criticism is very much weakened. And to the domestic consumption, what is the newness? What is the explanation of the newness? That is explained. So it is a separate version of explanation. I have mentioned 2018, 19, and 21. I have three examples. As you can read, titles are almost the same. So repeatedly, what is new, what is new? So many times over and over, domestically, government is explaining. In other words, the new means very significant domestically. That is what they want to emphasize. At the same time, my opinion, I said that this is nothing new. But domestically, what's new? What's new about? I think there are people saying that. What is new about it? So this is as a party, this is the correct thinking. This is the explanation. Repeatedly, so over so many years, they are repeating this explanation.
And when English version is being sent as a message to the overseas audience, what is new may be very difficult to understand, and it could be subject to criticism. So that is perhaps the subdued language used in the English version. But when we speak of overseas, in the Chinese, the character, the zone, for example, for the Japanese language, the new party system is being utilized. What is new? This is the website in Japanese language, sourced from China, and the new party system in Japanese is actually being utilized. So for Chinese character language zone, the new party system continues to be utilized. The point I'm trying to make is that there are three groupings of a message transmitted. So for the domestic audience, consistently this is completely new. This is something unique to the China. It's being repeatedly mentioned. But for the overseas, for the English language audience, I'm sure there would be questions about what is new. So for such an audience, it is more diluted and subdued. So the new is not being asserted that much. But the new party system in Chinese character language zone, for example, in Japan, I am using the new party system as a terminology. Perhaps China would like to have the new party system to be fully established as a terminology, meaning that would be relevant in trying to enhance the recognition and understanding. So the new party system will be accepted and be taking a group. So the Chinese model will be unique and different from the other systems. So you need to scrutinize and look into more of a detail. What is new? The relevance of what is new may have a distinctive the way of the meaning. So there are three types of messages being sent out from China. So what is being aimed for? There are no official statement being made from China itself, so I have made my own interpretation. So the governance model of Chinese Communist Party needs to be defined clearly. I would like to interpret as such. I have not given the explanation for chapters 1, 2, and 3. How the political party systems that have been developed historically, the explanation is given. And the chapter number 4 is the explanation about the superiority. And from 5 to 9, the system itself is being explained. So as the system is being explained, what is the historical relevance and meaning? And why is it important? Trying to position the political party system as of now, they are giving a series of explanation. That's to say, this would lead to the December when there will be a definition to be given for the recognition of the history, because this spring the curriculum for schools had been changed, A new recognition of the history has been incorporated into the curriculum, and in July there was celebration for the 100 years since the founding of the Communist Party. So there are different important stages, and the Chinese style of democracy and Chinese way of political party system, how it has been developed and how it will develop in the future, and what is the relevance and meaning and definition of that. This has been a part of the series of the process in trying to heighten the relevance of the political party system. So first of all, China has focused to the domestic audience to try to fully establish this concept of new party system. And in order to make this happen, there could be some logical reaction coming from overseas. This would be a difficulty. So to the overseas audience, that China would not assert that strongly that it has a quite unique and good system, because when China criticized too much, overly, of the Western style of political party system or democracy, it could invite a negative reaction. But for the Chinese character, a language zone, China is trying to explain that this is the system in China. So gradually, China would like to have the other countries to accept how excellent and superb the new party system that China has. It is not that China is trying to backpedal and try to run away from criticisms, but that, I believe, is the ulterior motive of the China. Thank you. As I have listened to the presentation by Professor Eto, the China researcher, in June this year, that the State Council Information Office, when it has made public the China's political party system cooperation consultation white paper, I'm sure the researchers has made a detailed analysis into the background. But for the domestic audience, as Professor Eto, who has mentioned, it's not that anything new what has been newly created. So what is exactly the meaning of the new political party system? The word new. It is not the new inside the China, but perhaps new to the outside of China. And you need to have the analysis into the antithesis, which is the old style of democracy, a political party system, the Western political party system. China has started to say that the rules created by the West is not the world's the order, and China would like to criticize. So what is said as new political party system, the standard to be established from now onwards would not be the Western style of political party system, but perhaps the Chinese way of political party system. I would like to ask Professor Takahara's view, but first of all, may I ask Professor Eto to react. Right at this moment, the political party system in China, based upon the experience of the Western political process, the political party system in China has been created as such, but also had been deeply rooted within the Chinese culture. So this is quite unique to China. Right now, there is no argument or assertion that it would become a global standard. But looking at the democracy, which has been centered on the Western society, what China is trying to present is something of an alternative, something different, could be presented and explained, and China may also have the other countries to try to assert their own style of democracy, and then China will be willing to support their positions as well. That may be the case. Now, if that is to be the situation, rather than widely disseminate the Chinese political party system, but not the old style of democracy, but new democracy, the Chinese way, needs to be accepted as well. So diversity needs to be accepted. So that, I believe, may be the contention of China. So in that process, we could include this white paper on the new political party system. Thank you for waiting, Professor Takahara. This white paper is for the domestic audience, but also for the overseas audience as well, being published, and also to provide information to the outside. But as was mentioned earlier, there are English version and Japanese version and Chinese original version. There are differences in the expressions and the wordings that are being utilized. But why is it that at this timing that China has come up with this white paper? So inclusive of the background, Professor Takahara, could I ask your view and take, and also react to what Professor Eto has presented? Thank you very much, Professor Eto, as well as Dr. Ohara. This was highly interesting topic. Basically speaking, in a nutshell, the Communist Party system's rule, legitimacy, the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party seems to be asserted and contended by China, that we may not have been elected by people's election, and this may have been secretly been held as a guilt conscience by the leadership of China. The Goldman Sachs former officer, Mr. Thornton, who is running school under the Tsinghua University. And since he has that position, he is communicating frequently with the leadership in China. He has been talking with Xi Jinping as well in a virtual conference. And with Wang Qishan, he has had a long talk, it seems. So what he tells us is that the question of legitimacy, the leaders in China right now are highly interested, and they are actually studying the Wang Qishan have been reading the literature and books on the legitimacy of the political rule. And Xi Jinping, together with Mr. Thornton, had a long talk on the legitimacy of the political party. It seems. So this may become an obsession for the Chinese leadership. And related to this issue of the legitimacy is the so-called color revolution. The Chinese leadership, not just for this generation, but sometime in the future, color revolution could happen and they may be overturned as a regime in place. So they may always be worried and concerned over this possibility. So within China, if there are groups asking for a democracy, more democracy, as well as human rights assertion, then the Chinese leadership may always set the question that the United States may be in the background or see some signs for democratic moves. And more recently in Hong Kong, the democratic groups and the campaigners have been crushed because they now have some signs of the color revolution. I believe it was last year's Beitahe conference. Xi Jinping has taken this decision, and that has led to the strong oppression in Hong Kong, it seems. So that is at the very foundation. And to the Chinese public, that what they are doing in China is superb and excellent. They have nothing to worry and change at all. So that is what they would like to appeal to the public. And to the overseas, they may have some defensive positioning. Whatever you may criticize, for China, the best and most suitable political system would be the party system that we have now. That seems to be the declaration. So they wanted to put into the form of white paper and be translated into English. And what is not convincing enough or not perhaps favorable to China that has been translated exactly or accurately into English. So what Professor Eto has found at some points that there are differences in translation and the original Chinese language. That was quite interesting. In order to protect and defend themselves, they may have come up with this white paper and the translation version of that.
Talking about newness, one gets associated is the new relationship with major countries. China wanted to establish that kind of relationship. They tried to have the relationship with the United States to no avail. The use of the word new. During the time of Jiang Zemin, new security concept was presented. But the new major power relationship, everybody doubted whether it was really new. Regarding the new security concept, from our point of view, there was nothing new. It was only the cooperative security and comprehensive security. That's what that was combined. That is what they mean by the new security concept. The Chinese Communist Party finds a great value in the word new. So in that sense, maybe they are in the midst of the process of modernization. They are obsessed with the word new. So using those words, they want to appeal the case to the audience. I think that is the continuous trends that we observe. Another word used is great, Dai, the great leap forward, great cultural revolution, the great development of the western part of China. Kato Hiroyuki, professor, Kobe University, said, when you attach the adjective Dai, big, usually that the policy will fail. Maybe what he says is right. So the new, what about the word new? So I was wondering whether the new would be destined like the adjective Dai or big or great. Well, listening to Takahara-san's comment, in 2016, Xi Jinping met with Obama and he repeatedly presented the new relationship between major powers, Palm Spring, that is. The major powers, they clashed. And a new relationship is the major powers not making any clash. And no confrontation, mutual respect, and win-win, and the no conflict, no confrontation, no conflict, and the mutual respect is that the other countries that don't meddle with the Chinese affairs, and as long as they do that, there will be win-win relationship amongst the major powers. So in the usage of the word new in relationship with the United States or regarding the approaches from the United States, maybe China is responding by the usage of the word new. So then currently U.S., what is the attitude of U.S. Currently? During the Trump administration, the State Secretary Pompeo almost went as far as the ideological confrontation. The Biden administration may have a little difference from Trump administration. So they are talking about the competition between political systems. So that's what the U.S. is saying, and that is stimulating the China for the reaction, I guess. So Chinese attitude vis-a-vis U.S. and the reaction, the U.S. reaction to China and China's response to U.S. approach is maybe the new party system. And China is also making approaches to the international community. So I have this question. So before asking them to respond, we are accepting questions from in the chat box. So you can write questions in the chat box while presentation is made or discussion is made. Professor Eto, can you respond to my question? The Sino-U.S. confrontation, especially the Trump administration and the Biden administration are making approaches in criticizing China. So in the latter part of the process, I think it influenced at around 2016. The party system has to be theorized. Many people discuss that. from mid-2000, discourse power of China has to be strengthened on the extension of that discussion regarding politics. The politics will be explained in Chinese language. I think that was the intention, being strengthened as a trend in China. So in that process, they wanted to have the theoretical architecture. Discussion about the new political party would be done in comparison with the Western system. Within the scope that I confirmed, from the Chairman Xi's remarks in 2018, this kind of comparison began. So in terms of the incorporation of comparison, I think the Sino-US confrontation came about, and then there was a political intention that the Chinese system is much better and wonderful. But in the form of a theoretical architecture, it wasn't made so solidly in the beginning. So how the situation is matching with the current situation of China, I think they started their discussion from that perspective. Together with that, domestically, a variety of a lot of diversity has happened from the latter part of 2000s to the first half of 2010s. So the point is the leadership wanted to incorporate the people of intellect. So non-party people have to be incorporated into the power structure. So I think a broad range of people will have the power to participate in the political process. So along with that thinking, the discussion was constructed, and also in the West, democracy was confused. That's why the criticism was created. But reaction causes another reaction. That is, the Chinese reaction is being criticized again by the West. So they don't want to emphasize the criticizing part of their policy. Takahara-san, similar question. Earlier on, the domestic consumption of the presentation, Communist Party has to show legitimacy for the domestic audience, you said, and domestically this theory has to take firm root. You said that was the primary purpose. So theoretical architecture or learning theories are very frequently done in China. Is it effective? Is learning effective? Simply put, for the Chinese people listening to this kind of discourse, they learn, they study, and the Communist Party is right and just. Is that the opinion that the people will conclude? Exactly, that was the point I was going to discuss in today's program. What kind of effect would this propaganda produce? There is subtlety in making judgment. It's a propaganda. So repeatedly, the message is presented. And then a certain degree of penetration will happen amongst the public. But many people, the Chinese people that is, will feel that, leadership talks about it, but I don't know about it. I think that must be the initial reaction. Again, they are saying the same thing. They don't have to say, you are going to continue the one-party domination, no matter what. So I think this is the dispassionate attitude of Chinese people in listening to this kind of message. But message is repeated many times, especially in the case of young people. Maybe this is the case. Maybe what they say is right. There is a possibility that certain young people may incline toward this kind of message. At least that is what is expected by the Communist Party. There is a central propaganda department. It's a very special department, a very strong department, non-existent in Western countries. So they have to think of various projects and programs. Radically, fundamentally, this is the legitimacy is lacking. That is the Achilles heel of Communist Party. How do do they guarantee, and how do they come up with the lack of legitimacy? I think that is their greatest challenge. That's why they are making this kind of policy discourse campaign. I don't know about the effect. We have to watch and see how they will come out. Now, lack of legitimacy, it's a fundamental problem I momentarily alluded to. In relation to foreign countries, the lack of legitimacy is being considered in relation with other countries. So Mr. Pompeo aside, so Mr. Yu is a person making advice to Pompeo. So those people are focusing on the Communist Party in running the China policy within Trump administration. So that is why they brought about a greater anxiety to the Chinese side. The sense of anxiety had existed earlier on, as Professor Eto rightly said. Thank you very much for your comment. Well, there is a Chinese reaction. Domestically, we have to watch the situation. Otherwise, we will not be able to find out the effect of their campaign. So Professor Takahara and Professor Eto are continuously researching on that, and that is why they are continuing their research. There is a significance. In relation with foreign countries, there will be certain impact from their policy. Then those people who are studying security and diplomacy will also have certain implications. They have to bear those points in mind. In relation with foreign countries, it was mentioned, so I would like to turn now to different point. This was associated with the presentation of white paper. In what way, in what manner, how China is going to propagate and extend their thinking and their messages? Professor Eto? To the international community, the China, as Professor Takahara said, the one-party domination, the legitimacy may be lacking, so they want to assert legitimacy, and that will lead into the legitimacy of China as a major power in the international community. What they do in China, what they have a model, would be regarded and recognized as a success story in the international community. I think that is one of the final goals of China. So they want to position China as a strong power in the international community, as a socialistic power. So in this context, China has been realizing a bottleneck criticized by international community, and one of it is democracy, and another is human rights. On these 2 points, they are saying that there are Chinese styles of human rights and democracy, but nevertheless, these are the challenges always posed to China. How China is going to convince the Western community with what they do in China. So there is a white paper on human rights together with this political party white paper. So they have to have the theoretical architecture. How should they think about it? How should they explain theoretically? They are beginning such approaches in the United Nations and other fora. They will incorporate their expression in international fora. As more countries accept at a certain point in time, there may be domino effect. Many countries thinking could experience some change in terms of accepting what China does. So they will start from countries where they accept the Chinese way of doing, and the last bastion would be U.S. and Western countries. So they will not work on difficult countries first. They will start from countries where they can begin. They can do something about it. Thank you very much. We have questions from audience. So I would like to ask them to respond to those questions. First question to Professor Takahara. Xi Jinping regime, political system based upon that. Is it going to be rock solid going forward? For example, Taiwan Strait, emergency happens, contingency happens, then Shanghai would be close, a coastal region would be close to Taiwan Strait. So maritime transport, trading, and they may be subject to direct confrontational damage. So those people living in coastal regions may want to demand detente or relaxation of tension. Would they pose this demand on the leadership?
Wouldn't there be some the impairment on the position of the Chinese Communist Party? Professor Takahara, would you like to respond? Yes, thank you for the question. The voice of the local region sometimes could reach the central leadership, generally speaking. With the central government's policies, there could be some impact on the welfare as well as the prosperity of the local communities. So through different channels, their voice could be delivered to Xi Jinping. For example, in May 2019 with the United States, there has been negotiation on the economic front. 150-page long document has been being created, and it was almost being signed. But then at the last minute, China did not sign and say that it would decline. One theory of this says that China averted the signature of this document is because from many local communities, especially from Xi Jinping's the affiliated the people who are the governors and mayors of the local communities, they did not want agreement with the United States because there could be negative impact financially as well as economically. And because of their voice, China at the last minute avoided signing this document. But looking at the Taiwan Straits and the developments right now, the leaders in the coastal region, I don't think they are that concerned or have some imminent pressed concern right now. So I don't think they would complain at this moment in time. But then, on the other hand, at this stage, China may not be prepared to take on Taiwan by force, and the local community leadership knows of this. That could be the interpretation. There is also a question to Professor Eto as well on the political consultation system after the Xi Jinping administration. Has there been any changes? You mentioned earlier that there is nothing new, but after Xi Jinping has assumed the power, has there been any changes being made? Political consultation system from the outside is highly complicated and difficult to understand. So if there are any changes or developments, if you could elucidate us as well. On the political consultation system, the CPPCC is the representative organization of the United Front. Now, the people outside of Communist Party and the Communist Party will consult with each other and take decisions. So the political consultation system itself did not change, but on the United Front from 2015 onwards, there has been major developments. The United Front, the work ordinance that has been made public. It was on a trial basis, but the new revision has been made public towards the last year. The content means that emphasis being placed on the Xi Jinping, the ideology, to have a widespread consultation and cooperation with the different groupings outside of Communist Party. The one party, the rule, that may have weakened ever since the Hu Jintao administration. That is because the resilience means not just robust, but it must be also flexible. During the Hu Jintao administration, what has prolonged the Communist Party was analyzed, and many people has pointed out that there has been flexibility with the Communist Party, and the various voices have been incorporated, and the interest of the different groups have been incorporated. The Communist Party, they try to go for or efficiency, and also to widely disseminate their information. But the system has been developing and has been evolving. And now, under the Xi Jinping administration, flexibility may have been lost. So how to complement and fill in the gap? So legislation and the rules and regulations, and that the party system will be created for the private sector, the business as well. There has been an approach made by the Chinese Communist leadership to the business sector. So they are now reviewing the situation and trying to rebuild the system, creating new legislations as well. And as a consequence, the political consultative system has been reinforced. So through regulations and through the moves and approaches to bring them inside. But at the same time, those opposing views to the Communist Party would be oppressed, on the other hand. So it is not that in the outer form there has been no change, but the way of its workings, there has been unbalanced the relationship between the Communist Party and the outside people, but the disproportionate balancing may have widened because of that. As Professor Eto said, that Chinese leadership may have had some sense of crisis. Now, next question is, there could be another crisis happening in China, and that may have led to the publication of this white paper on new party system. I would like to ask two professors to respond. Xi Jinping has been making haste for the theory of formation. Xi Jinping himself has studied abroad, and the Western philosophy and also natural science, as well as the social science and humanities may have been studied and learned. And Xi Jinping himself have had the questions, and there are many Chinese students who have studied abroad may have similar questions, and that is threatening Chinese Communist Party leadership. So do you see signs of this happening? Can I ask Professor Eto to speak first of all? This is something old and new issue. Ever since the open doors and reform of the system, they have continued to absorb the theory as well as ideology from the West, but how to strike a balance between their own the way of thinking and the new way of thinking coming from the outside. There will be sympathizers over the Western style of thinking, and as increased number of Chinese students study abroad, they could be influenced by the Western style of the thinking, and the different thoughts could be brought into China as well when they come back. And looking at the economic development and one-party monopoly system, how to strike a balance between the two. This has always been the challenge to China. In the Xi Jinping era, what has changed? The control may have become easier, that is to say, publicly and officially with the students who have come back from abroad. The united front, the work process will be emphasized and strengthened. And when they go abroad, they could contact with the different people outside, and especially the excellent students who come back to China should contribute to the Communist Party as well as the China overall. That is being urged and encouraged. But as it says in the ordinance for the United Front, the work, that the Chinese Communist Party ideology and thoughts must be understood. So education should be made in this regard. And they need to contribute to the economy and society and the country based upon the Communist Party, the thinking. Now, which is superior could be one type of analysis, but the publicly, they cannot really criticize the Chinese Communist Party, and this is already fully established. So control of Communist Party may have been fully established during the Hu Jintao administration. The liberalization and democratization have happened very far. But now the Communist Party is now cracking down on that kind of process. So what we must be concerned of is the leftist way of the thinking. The Communist Party, the orthodox, the theory, may be coming to the fore, and that has been the oppressing the people. So, Professor Takahara, if I could add on the question itself, I have mentioned sense of crisis held by China. The Chinese Communist Party leadership, do you think that all of them share the sense of crisis, or could there be some difference in terms of degree of sense of crisis for the new party system? It means that no other ideology could be accepted. And more recently, people say that we need to go back to the origins of the Communist Party, the Xi Jinping. The ideology seems to be strengthened, and the control and power seems to be made so strong. So within the Communist Party, do you think that everyone shares this ideology? That means that it could be very strongly being promoted. Now, if there are some differences inside the Communist Party, there could be new developments happening going forward. So what would you think? If we let everything alone, when Communist Party do nothing, globalization will progress and Chinese economy may decelerate further. So in that sense, a strong control must be exercised, and they need to endeavor for propaganda purpose. So that kind of orientation seems to prevail. With the propaganda as well as education, the deceleration of economy cannot be avoided and globalization cannot be stopped. So if, I wouldn't say economic crisis, but the economic bubbles may burst and the economy may be plunged into doldrums, then when and if that happens, division could happen in the way of thinking. There could be different views. So political system needs to be reviewed so that interests of the different people needs to be reflected better, and the coordination of the different interests need to be put in place. There could be some who would contend for such, but the other people would said that would be the start of the beginning of the end of the Chinese Communist Party. So there are these two camps of different arguments, and the division could come to the fore, and that could happen. Now, there is another question. This is a question from the audience. And I would like to ask Professor Eto to respond lastly. Now, as you see, the progress of democracy in the world. Without the election, the new party system contends that democracy could happen. Even in the new emerging democracies, that could be quite attractive to the developing economies. And that could be opportunity for China. China's influence could be expanded. And with such opportunities, the political model of China, the authoritarian style of politics, could be exported to the other countries. Isn't there any signs of this? Yes, the influence of China had to be expanded based upon its economic power. That has progressed greatly. But political system, if it seems to be rather attractive from the other countries, and there could be increased number of states who would like to accept the Chinese model, this is more than expected from Chinese point of view. So I'm sure China would like to promote this to happen. But the difficulty is Chinese way of things, the authoritarian system, but the basic thinking is based upon socialist ideology. So those countries who cannot accept socialism, but without accepting socialism, could they really recreate the Chinese model with democracy, trying to consult with the different groups. That could be a model. But just by carving that out and accepting that alone may not actually be viable. If that could happen, that I don't think we need to oppose that, be it Chinese model or be it other model, trying to siphon up the voices of the people in some way could be positive. Apart from China, how it could function well needs to be analyzed and perhaps recognized and commended. And whether it is an export from China or not should not be the standard and criteria of the assessment. But if China intentionally tries to export its own model to the other countries, then we need to reflect upon this and perhaps try to criticize that. But if the country itself would like to positively accept the Chinese model by itself, I don't think we need to criticize. We are running out of time for the new party system white paper and the debate on this. Perhaps it could reflect the sense of crisis held by the Chinese leadership and perhaps pressure being imposed from the United States and also the reaction coming from the international community. We need to look at the interrelationship. We need to watch carefully because foreign policy would inevitably be impacted by the domestic affairs. We need to look at all the different aspects in trying to understand what is happening. I would like to thank Professors Eto and Professor Takahara. Thank you very much for your participation.